Okay, this is just sort of an introduction, an explanation of how the class works. There's also a frequently asked questions document and some additional information that I'll update as the course progresses. And I need to put out that this, of course, is subject to change. You can find a lot of this stuff on in the syllabus, but this is only the second year we've used Canvas at Fresno State, and transitioned pretty well. But I'm not. There's some things I don't like about it, but it's okay. And the university's been adding different features, some of it in response to the pandemic, and so one particular one called Panopto Video, and that has something to do because what I do is in each of the units or modules, there's generally an information dump in the form of a PowerPoint with a voiceover. So I'll narrate it. And I do more than just read the slides. But I post the plain PowerPoint on Canvas in the module. And I used to point also, and I will also post the plain PowerPoint or the voiceover PowerPoint as a PowerPoint if you want to look at that. Unfortunately, you have to download it. When you open it in Canvas, the top line says download this video. You have to download it so you can actually play it in PowerPoint. But discovered recently an ingenious way to make it even better. And I can convert that voiceover PowerPoint to a MP4, and then you can watch the movie, the MP4, and you can pause it, you can fast forward, you can do all kinds of things. Rewind it. Now, in the past, I've posted on my YouTube channel, which is where that first video you saw is posted. I may start putting it in the Panopto section and then refer to it from there so it actually be in on Canvas. We'll just see how it works. It's not a big deal to go to YouTube for that, although I got a lot of stuff on YouTube for all my other classes. Okay, I mentioned modules. That's the term they use for, it's not really a unit, but everything has to be in a module. The syllabus in the textbook is in a module. Yeah, it's a little crazy. Now, so some of these modules are true content-rich stuff that you got to dig through to get the content of the course in it. And then there are some other little modules that aren't quite as important, although actually a lot of the assignments are in these, I shouldn't say less important modules, but they're not always curriculum content in them. So what I have done is set it up so that the content modules, which are all in caps, they'll have that information dump, like I said, a PowerPoint, or maybe something else. Any other related documents, example tests, perhaps. A short assignment to see what you got out of the PowerPoint, and discussion boards on that particular topic. The assignments, which are small 10-point value things, paper and pencil icon, you click on them and follow the directions for those. The major assignments, the two big essays, will probably have about a 3-week, I don't want to say deadline, because if you go 4 weeks, it's okay. If you turn it in 2 days, that's fine too. After everybody has submitted the first essay, I will look at them and score them, and you can't, the only person that didn't get an A, and I converted it later to an A, was the guy who submitted his wife's resume instead of the essay by mistake. I said, hey, what's going on here? Oops. So there's no right or wrong to any of the essays. And there's no right or wrong to any of the questions on the test. There will be a test. Well, it's actually, I could do it as a very long essay, but it is actually short essay questions to get one of the CTC requirements out of the way. The essays as MS Word documents is preferred, but you can submit them as PDFs or other formats. Make sure they're standalone documents. It's going to be called a file submission if you're familiar with Canvas. Don't do it as a shared Google Doc. If you do it as a Google Doc, save it as a standalone and then send it. I'm not going to be editing them, and this is just not a situation where a shared document works very well. And again, the minor assignments, you don't even, there's going to be one sentence, 2 sentences. So you can choose the text processor that shows up to answer that question. Now, discussion boards, it's a square word balloon. They have really lousy icons on these things. They're inside the modules, and there's in fact one in this introductory module. And I'd like you to make at least 7 discussion board posts during the semester. In any or all of the boards, not just one thread, try to spread it out a little bit. More is better. And you hit reply to make a post within a thread. And there should be set up, although this is one of the things I don't like about Canvas. Every time you bring in a new class, something doesn't change. It goes back to a default. And the default is that you can't edit or delete what you post. I have to go in and change that individually, or have in the past. Maybe it'll work this year. But if you make a goof or something, or you realize you were insensitive, you can go in and delete it, or you can edit it if you see that you misstated something. And I'm not grading on content. One year we had teachers debating back and forth about whether teachers should be able to carry guns in the schools. Very lively part of the class. So look forward to meeting your friends there, making new friends across the state. Okay, enough about the essays. There is actually, it could be done as an essay, but it's actually done as a set of essay questions on the test. And it's how I approach the teacher performance expectations that the CTC requires. If you got your credential more than 10 or 15 years ago, you didn't have to deal with this, but there'll be more about it when we get into it. It's in its own module. It basically set up scenarios about our tech classes, and you can take it leisurely. I think there's 15 questions, and you can do 1 a day, do 3 one day, do 2 the next. And this is one of the places where you're kind of lucky that you have, you're taking this at Fresno State, because of very specific TPEs that I have to put into this class. And a lot of our TPEs are done in the other classes. The other place where you're lucky that you are doing this at Fresno State has to do with lesson planning. More about that in a minute. And you know, if the TPE question is, what would you do with that kid that finishes early? There's no wrong answer to it. So you're not going to get them wrong. They're all very reflective assignments, the written stuff. And you'll get full credit for all of them. But it is enough to mention that you can't try to do this in 2 days. you need to do a little bit along the semester as you go along. And so if you miss a week or two, I'll kind of be in touch with you. I mentioned the FAQ document. You enter the class with a B, because I don't do total points in my classes, but so don't worry about the points. But if you do the work on time with a little bit of panache, or even not very much panache, just on time and complete, you're going to get an A. Now, I'm going to try to set up a way. It hadn't worked in the past with Canvas, but if you look in the grade book and something hadn't been graded, that means that somebody else in the class hasn't completed it. It's an old habit I have where if I got 30 term papers to read, if the first ones that come in, I start reading them and I go, oh, this was really bad, or this is really good. And then as I go forward and start, when I get to about the 10th one, I begin to get a feel for how the class is doing, what concepts they've grasped and what maybe I didn't get to them. And I realize I'm penalizing the first set of papers if I assign a grade to them. A lot of times I'll kind of scan through them all and get a feel for the papers before and then reread them again. But I don't want to slow that down. And since you guys are going to do great on this, I do want to wait till everybody's done, because some of the information I will post, like I say, that one of the TP questions might be, what do you do with that kid that finishes early? And I'd like everybody in the class to read what other people do when that kid finishes early, because it's a common problem. If you got this far, you know that you have a new email account. That is, it's a Google account. And if I send an email or communication out of Canvas, it goes to that account. And since it's a Google account, you can easily link it to another Gmail account you may have, or you could use this as a Gmail account. I know it's kind of not nice to get yet another email account. But think about it. The university's got to do it that way. It's easier for you to do that than it would be for the university to have 1,500 different URLs to deal with. I'll be sending you some reminders, but I'll probably send them to your school email account. This is a professional class, and I won't be sending you much, don't worry. If you looked at the syllabus, you see that I'm going to be focusing on what's unique about industrial technical education. Look at the history and philosophy. We're going to spend a few weeks on safety, funding and budgets. How do you run a hands-on based project class? Some curricular stuff. How do you evaluate? And as I said, lesson planning in Fresno State's education program is covered in other classes besides the methodology class. Therefore, I don't have to cover it. The university doesn't require me to cover it, and I'm not. I do when they do have an induction student in the class, but I don't have any this year. That's why it's now in continuing education, and I'm actually doing this as an overload, but that's okay. I've gotten this one down pretty good. And classroom management is really not that different from managing your whatever class you were teaching before, likely a science class. It doesn't really make much difference. Kids with behavior problems are kids with behavior problems no matter the class. Little bits here. I've mentioned 2 good textbooks in the syllabus, and in fact, last year, one of them became available as a PDF, and I've loaded it in the same module with the syllabus. It was a free PDF which is kind of, it's not the newest and not the latest, but it really does have some very good stuff in it that are, I think, as good as anything else written in. The other one is a book about safety. And when I talk about safety, I'm not just talking about safety. I'm talking about liability. So if you think, oh, I'm just teaching a drafting class, I'm teaching a computer coding class, well, you got liability issues too. That kid that uses the internet to bully somebody else in the class, complaints against that are going to come point a lot of fingers at you. So you need to pay attention to the safety stuff because it's really about liability. I will mention that I try to up-to-date each unit each semester, but there's a lot of work, as you well know, teaching during this pandemic. And so I may not update a voiceover or something. It's sorry, but it's just going to have to happen. You'll probably see the ones that haven't been updated. Okay. This is a very philosophical class, just like almost all graduate classes I've ever taken are. I don't have my doctorate, but I've spent a lot of time in graduate classes, ABD, all but dissertation. And I was surprised that so many graduate classes were very philosophical. And that is what happens. So this is a chance for you to reflect on what you're going to do, how you're going to do this. Is this what you want to do? And if you want to get more involved, there's an organization called the California Industrial Technology Education Association. You want to go to graduate school, you may be Skills USA is an organization for students. There are other ones associated with Project Lead the Way. And so there are other ways to do, you'll see as we go along through the semester. Couple of things, one thing to mention, I don't know what's going to happen because it's now in continuing education, but I think it probably will. You might be required by the university to watch a video as a new Fresno State student. Heck, there might be two. This was put in as a CSU requirement a few years ago, and yes, you have to watch it. You just log in and with your email credentials, watch it, and it's actually pretty good. It's one of two, and I've seen both of them, and they're pretty good, and they're not very long. Now, about once a week, about every other week or maybe less, you may get an email from Fresno State. And you may get stuff that really focuses on campus, but goes out to all currently registered students. And it's probably going to see some of that just because of the pandemic. Most of that you can ignore. You may get one directly from the university about payment of fees if you put it on a plan. All kinds of things that can happen as things go forward. I may send you one as much as one a week, but probably 3 a month is what you're going to get from me. So you won't be overloaded with your brand new email address.